You know that moment when someone laughs at your car choice? Maybe they don't say it out loud, but you can see it. The slight smirk, the quick glance at your sensible crossover before they climb into something bigger, flashier, more expensive. And then, a few months later, you hear through the grapevine that their transmission gave out at 60,000 kilometers. Or the infotainment system needed replacing. Or the repair bill came in at something that made their stomach drop. It happens more often than people admit. Because there's a pattern in the car world that almost nobody talks about honestly. The SUVs that get the most attention, the ones that dominate the ads and the social media posts and the dealership window displays, are frequently not the ones that hold up best over time. And the ones that quietly sit in the corner of the lot, the ones that buyers walk past on their way to something louder, are often the ones that are still running clean at 150,000 kilometers while their flashier counterparts are racking up diagnostic codes. Today we're fixing that. 5 affordable SUVs that almost nobody talks about. 5 vehicles that outlast, outperform, and outsave the options that get all the attention. And by the time we get to number 1, the way you think about value in a car is going to be permanently different. Before we get into the list, let's be honest about something. Most buyers shop with the wrong criteria. They want presence. They want screens. They want styling that turns heads in a car park. They want a badge that means something at a dinner party. And the industry knows this. So that's what gets marketed. That's what gets the big launch events and the celebrity endorsements and the prominent floor space in every dealership. But reliability doesn't care about any of that. Reliability is built in engineering decisions made years before the car ever reaches a showroom. It's in the simplicity of a drivetrain, the proven nature of a platform, refusal to add complexity that looks impressive in a brochure but creates failure points over a decade of real ownership. The SUVs that score highest on long-term durability studies, on owner satisfaction surveys 5 and 7 years into ownership, on total cost of ownership calculations that include fuel, maintenance, and repair, are consistently not the ones with the most aggressive styling or the most talked about technology packages. They're the overlooked ones, and these are 5 of the best. Starting at number 5, the Mazda CX5. If you've spent any time shopping for SUVs in the compact segment, you've probably seen the CX5 on a comparison list somewhere, and then probably skipped past it in favor of something that felt more exciting. That's the mistake. Because the CX5 occupies a genuinely unusual position in the market. It drives with the kind of precision and engagement that you don't expect at this price point. The steering has weight and feedback. The chassis responds. Sitting inside, the material quality and the design coherence feel closer to a premium European brand than a mainstream Japanese one. And yet, crucially, Mazda achieved all of that without adding unnecessary complexity. That's the key insight with the CX5. They built refinement through engineering discipline, not through stacking features and systems on top of each other. Fewer complicated electronics. A powertrain philosophy that prioritizes efficiency and longevity over headline performance numbers. An interior that feels considered without being overloaded with technology that will age poorly. The result in real ownership is a vehicle that consistently reports low maintenance costs, strong reliability scores across multiple years of production, and an ownership experience that holds up far better than its price suggests it should. The reason it gets overlooked is almost poetic. It sits in an awkward middle ground. Too refined for buyers who think they want a budget option. Too understated for buyers chasing status. Not aggressively marketed enough to break through in a crowded segment. But for the buyer who actually cares about what the car does rather than what it says about them, the CX5 is one of the most consistently rewarding purchases in its class. And we're only at number 5. Number 4 is one that gets dismissed almost immediately in most conversations. The Honda HR-V. The criticism is always the same. It's not exciting. The engine is modest. The styling doesn't make a statement. There's no feature in the brochure that makes you stop and think, yes, that's the one. And that criticism is technically accurate. The HR-V is not built to excite you. It's built to work. Honda's engineering approach with the HR-V has been consistent across generations. Simplicity, efficiency, durability. Not because they couldn't add more, but because they understood that for a large portion of buyers, what matters most is a car that starts every morning, costs as little as possible to maintain, and asks nothing of you except that you drive it. The HR-V delivers that with almost boring consistency. Mechanics who work on these vehicles tend to speak well of them, not because they're mechanically fascinating, but because they don't create problems. The service intervals are predictable. The components that wear gradually and in expected ways. The systems that could fail don't, or at least not early and not often. Owner satisfaction data over extended ownership periods backs this up consistently. The HR-V isn't the car that generates passionate reviews in year 1. It's the car that gets quietly praised in year 6, year 7, year 8, when everything else people bought at the same time is starting to show its age and cost money. In a market where buyers are often encouraged to stretch their budget for features they rarely use, the HR-V makes a different argument entirely. Less complexity, lower cost, longer life. And the next one on this list has been making that same argument for even longer. Number 3. The Subaru Forester. There is something slightly unfair about the way the Forester gets discussed, when it gets discussed at all. It tends to get written off as the reliable but dull choice. The sensible option. The car you buy when you've stopped caring about buying cars. But spend a few minutes with the actual data, and a different story emerges. The Forester has been in continuous production and refinement for decades, and the reason Subaru hasn't radically reinvented it with every generation is not that they lacked imagination, it's that the fundamental platform works. Standard all-wheel drive across the lineup, not as an upgrade or a premium option, as standard. A raised ride height that handles genuine road variation without the penalties of a full off-roader. Safety ratings that consistently sit at the top of its segment. Cargo space and interior practicality that outperforms several vehicles positioned above it in terms of price. What Subaru did with the Forester is the opposite of what most manufacturers do when they want to refresh sales. They didn't chase trends. They refined what already performed well. Better refinement over successive generations. Improved efficiency. Enhanced safety technology integrated into a platform that was already trusted. The result is a vehicle with a loyalty rate that is genuinely unusual in the industry. Forester owners don't just buy one and move on. They go back. They recommend it. They push back when someone tells them it's boring, because after years of ownership, boring has started to feel like exactly the right word for a vehicle that never creates problems. That kind of consistency is rare, and it's worth more than most buyers realize when they're standing in a dealership choosing between the Forester and something that looks more impressive on day one. But the next vehicle on this list takes a completely different approach to winning, and it's one that most buyers still haven't figured out. Number 2. The Toyota Venza. The Venza has an identity problem, and that identity problem is almost entirely responsible for how underrated it remains. Ask most buyers to categorize it, and they struggle. Is it a luxury SUV? Is it a hybrid commuter dressed up as a crossover? Is it Toyota experimenting with something between segments? The answer is that it's all of those things simultaneously, and the market hasn't quite known what to do with that. Here's what's actually happening inside the Venza, though. Toyota took their proven mature hybrid drivetrain, the same fundamental system that has accumulated hundreds of millions of real-world kilometers across multiple vehicle lines, and demonstrated reliability data that is almost unparalleled in the industry, and placed it inside a vehicle that is genuinely comfortable, genuinely quiet, and genuinely premium in feel. The outcome is a driving experience that is difficult to appreciate on paper, but immediately obvious once you're in it. The cabin is hushed, the ride is composed, acceleration is smooth and immediate in the way hybrid systems produce, without the mechanical buildup of a conventional engine responding to throttle input, and because the hybrid system reduces the mechanical stress on the petrol engine across all of the driving conditions where stress accumulates fastest, particularly urban stop-start driving. The long-term wear profile of the vehicle is measurably better than a conventional powertrain equivalent. Fewer fuel stops, lower running costs, reduced long-term maintenance burden, and all of it wrapped in a package that feels more expensive than its price point suggests. The Venza gets overlooked because it doesn't fit a simple story. And in a market driven by simple stories, that's a significant commercial disadvantage. But for the buyer who looks past the category confusion and evaluates what the car actually delivers, in ownership, the Venza is one of the strongest value propositions Toyota makes. Which brings us to number 1. And number 1 is the vehicle that most people think they already understand, the Toyota RAV4. The immediate reaction from most people when they see this at the top of a list like this is something between amusement and mild frustration. The RAV4? The most common SUV on the road? That's your overlooked pick? But stay with this for a moment. because the RAV4 is misunderstood in a very specific and important way. People think it's successful because it's popular. They get the causality backwards. The RAV4 is popular because it is genuinely, demonstrably, repeatedly proven to be one of the most reliable and durable vehicles in its class over time. The sales numbers are a consequence of that engineering reality, not the other way around. Toyota's approach with the RAV4 has been the same across decades of production. Resist the temptation to add complexity that doesn't serve the owner. Refine what already works rather than replacing it with something new and unproven. Use the accumulated data from millions of units in real-world operation to make targeted improvements rather than wholesale redesigns driven by styling trends. That discipline creates something that is genuinely difficult to find in the modern car market. Consistency. The RAV4 you buy today benefits from every lesson Toyota learned from every RAV4 that came before it. Every failure mode that was identified and corrected, every component that was improved based on real ownership data from real drivers in real conditions across every major market in the world. When you buy a RAV4, you are not buying a car that looks good on launch day. You are buying the product of decades of refinement by a manufacturer that treats long-term reliability as the primary engineering objective rather than an afterthought, and the numbers reflect it. Owner satisfaction at 5 years, reliability scores at 7 years, resale value, total cost of ownership. In virtually every metric that measures what a car is actually worth to its owner over time rather than how it feels in a test drive, the RAV4 performs at or near the top of its segment. That's not boring. That's a blueprint. So here's what all 5 of these vehicles have in common and why it matters for how you approach the next time you're in a car buying decision. None of them win on first impressions. None of them are built to impress someone who sees you in a car park. None of them have features designed primarily to win comparison tests or generate social media content. All of them are built around a different set of priorities entirely. Durability, simplicity, proven engineering, low long-term cost, consistent performance over years of real use. And those priorities, the ones that make for genuinely good ownership rather than genuinely exciting brochures, are consistently underrepresented in the way cars get discussed, marketed, and sold. The result is that the buyers who chase the exciting options, the big screens, the aggressive styling, the premium badge, very often find themselves in vehicles that cost significantly more to maintain, depreciate faster, and create more problems as the years accumulate. While the buyers who chose something from this list quietly put that money back in their pocket month after month. The question worth asking yourself the next time you're standing in a dealership is a simple one. Do you want a car that impresses people in the first few weeks, or do you want a car that keeps making the right decision look smarter every single year you own it? Because the smartest purchase in the room is almost never the loudest one. It's the one everyone else walked past. And if you've ever owned one of the vehicles on this list, you already know exactly what that feels like.